So you're buying a condo or a co-op or a condominium or a cooperative. Oh man, the differences are huge. Do you understand what you're buying? Let me help you today. According to the U.S. National and State Statistical Review for Community Associations, there's over 355,000 community associations in the U.S. today. About 60% of those are homeowner associations, around 35% are condominium associations, and the remaining 5% or so are co-op cooperatives. Hey, it's J-Dub, MrDowntownDelray with EXP Realty here in Delray Beach, Florida. And if this is your first time to my channel and you want to know everything that's going on around Delray Beach and the real estate market at large, please subscribe to my channel and hit that bell so you're notified every time a new video drops. And if you're like a lot of folks who've heard about Delray and want to know what this buzz is about this place, text me, write me, call me. Today we're going to be talking about the difference between condominiums and co-ops. Why? I just finished my first transaction doing a co-op after 25 years in business, and the differences are astounding. So if you are here cruising around and you're looking at a beachfront condominium and you think, that's got to be a beautiful condominium, but you don't know until you look at the paperwork and it's a co-op, the way you purchase and the way you own is night and day, and we're going to be getting into that. But first, please stick around to the end of this video where I'm going to provide you a link to my free relocation guide. More and more people are relocating here from places like New York and Chicago and even California. I have put together a free relocation guide for you that encompasses things like medical and doctors and gated communities and schools. So if that's what you need, stick around to the end. I'll provide you with a free link. Until that starts, we're going to be talking about condos and co-ops right now. To begin, let's take a look at two pieces of data that I think you'll find interesting and useful. Take a look at the first graph here. Of those 355,000 community associations, which again represents homeowner association, condo associations, and cooperatives, and by the way, this data is good through 2020. We're still waiting for 2021 information to come out. So on the far right column, you can see that over 74 million people out of a total population of what, 360,000 people in the US live in community associations. Now let's take a look at the next chart. California leads the number of associations at 49,200, which represents over 14 million people. California has 48,500 associations, and look, almost 10 million. And Texas is way behind in third place with only 21,000 associations and almost 6 million people. So to begin, let's define the difference between a condo or condominium and a co-op or a cooperative. When you buy a condo, you are actually purchasing the right to own the condominium. It's basically inside the walls of a large structure, but you actually become an owner of that piece, the interior of the walls. Contrary, a co-op or cooperative is also inside the same walls, but you don't technically own the property. You basically get a proprietary lease that allows you to have a say-so or a voting right in what happens inside the building. Another way to look at a co-op would be taking a look at like owning shares in a stock. So let's say you own shares of Tesla. You don't technically own Tesla, the company, but you own shares in the company that gives you voting rights on how the company of Tesla is run. So as for a condo or condominium, you technically own the interior of the wall. The exterior of the wall is owned by the association. They handle things like the upkeep of the property, the maintenance, any damage to it, the landscaping and yard keeping, all the stuff that happens on the outside. Also in a condo, it's technically considered real estate. So when you buy a condominium, you actually get the deed. You get the deed of the property that shows that you own that piece of property just like you would a single family home. As for the co-op, most of these co-ops were developed back in the 70s in places like New York, Philadelphia, Chicago. But here in Florida, along the coast, on the beachfront condos, you'll see lots of those here lining the beach. So basically, think about a co-op as housing that's owned by a corporation. And that corporation owns everything about the building. The interior, the exterior, the common spaces, you name it. So when you buy a co-op, you're not technically buying real property. Instead, you're buying shares in a corporation that owns the entire building. In other words, you're not buying real estate when you buy a co-op. When you buy a co-op, The property belongs to everyone who lives inside that building. I hope you're following along so far. So this is interesting. So who owns the actual housing corporation? It's simple. Everyone who buys shares in that corporation is an owner of that corporation. And basically it works this way. Let's say you buy a 3-bedroom, 2-bath unit inside that building. Compared to someone who buys, let's say, a 1-bedroom, 1-bath, your unit is probably going to be larger in square footage than the 1-bedroom. And also you probably paid more. Let's say you paid $500,000 for that and the other person paid $350,000. Well, when you buy into that corporation, you're buying more shares for the 3-bedroom, 2-bath than you would for the person who buys shares of a 1-bedroom. So the voting rights change based on who has more shares of the corporation. And then there's the actual process of ownership. So when you buy a condominium, the home seller is going to be willing to sell to anyone who can get a loan. They're not picky about anything. As long as you can qualify and buy a condo, no problem. But when you buy a co-op, it's a whole different set of rules, man. So when you're buying into a co-op, you've got to be approved by a board of directors. Basically, you submit your application where you get your background check done. Once that's complete, they pass that information over to the board of directors, who will set up usually an interview for you, the buyer, to be interviewed by 2 or 3 or 5 committee members, where they will look at everything from your financial records, your job situation, your application in itself. They want to be picky because they're going to be choosing who they're going to be living with, because they are all owners of the building. They're all shareholders. So the difference of ownership and how you buy the property is considerably different than how you buy a condominium. And once you're approved, the whole financing of a co-op is totally different, man, from a condo. Basically, when you buy a condo, a home seller, a condo seller is going to sell to anybody who can come up with the money, right? They're not picky. As long as you qualify and you find a lender, done deal. On a co-op, it's a whole different set of rules. You are going to need more money down, usually 20, 30, 100%. My last 2 customers were all cash buyers. Here's why. Lenders, when you are lending money to a condominium buyer, they're lending money, and the property, the real estate of condo is the collateral in case of a default. However, in a co-op, if they lend money to someone there, the default is not getting the collateral of the real estate, but the collateral is the shares. And lenders view that as being riskier. So it's much more difficult to get financing on a co-op as it is a condominium. Then when it comes to fees, some resources you'll find say that co-op owners will pay higher fees than condo owners. Basically, here's how it works. A co-op, basically, they roll up all their fees and expenses into one bill: the electric, the water, their property taxes. If you own, let's say, 4% of that building, you're going to pay 4% of the overall bills assessed to the building. Whereas a condo owner, you're going to pay your property taxes and your utilities on your own without anybody else's consideration. So for example, a condo owner is going to pay their property tax based on the assessed value of their own condo, whereas a co-op will pay a percentage portion of what the overall tax bill is for that property, for the whole building. And then you have the management of a co-op versus a condo. Notoriously, a co-op is much more stringent than a condo, because you have to go through this entire process of the interview process so they can handpick who they're going to be bumping to in the walls when you are becoming an owner. So they want to know exactly who you are. Whereas a condo, they're completely void of that. The condo association has nothing to do with who buys and sells a condo within a complex. In summary, the big difference between a condo and a co-op is really in the ownership, how you take ownership, possession, and rights. Obviously, in a condo, you own real estate, so you own real property and you own a deed. In a co-op, you own shares of a corporation that owns an entire building. And the process of owning those are much different. You can buy a condo without any rules and regulations, whereas a co-op, you go through a process of being interviewed so that they know exactly who is going to be their neighbor. And for you, if you are looking at condos in high rises, it's important not to classify these buildings all as, hey, I'm just going to go buy myself a condo. That's not the case. So when you're working with a realtor, when you see a condo that you like or a property you like, you need to ask the specific question. Is this a condominium or is this a co-op cooperative? And by understanding the nuances, today. I hope I gave you value in understanding the differences, the questions that you need to ask. You might want to refer to an attorney if it comes to situations of the shareholder and how, rights of survivalship, whether it's going to be joint tenants or other ways. You need to get your attorney involved in those situations as well. So hopefully you enjoyed this, but I also promised you this relocation guide. So see the link down below. I'll put that for you. If you are thinking about coming to Florida to buy a condo or a co-op in the Delray or Palm Beach area, I put together this guide. I've spent hours putting this together for you. You'll get information about gated communities and hospitals and medical information and schools, all that for free. Just go ahead and click on my guide below. Give me a phone call, send me an email, send me a text, send me anything to get a hold of me so we can touch base. If you're looking to relocate, move, and live in Florida, I hope you consider me. See you next time.